right, guys. What's going on? Thank you for joining us today. We are in the heart of it all here at District 142. I am in the hive mind of our great district, President and Directing General Chair's office, and we are sitting with the man himself. I know you're very busy, so we're going to go ahead and get right to the question everybody is that's on everybody's mind. Is it John Coveny or John Coveny?
Coveny.
Coveny.
Yeah. Great question. Way to start.
Way to start it off, right? Because I know we got a lot going on. You're going to be in front of a lot of people at our district convention coming up, and so you'll get a chance to introduce yourself and really make sure everybody knows the pronunciation of that name.
You know, it might not be a bad idea is to have the letters come out on the screen as I'm pronouncing my name, right?
So Coveny. You know, yeah, you could have that set up. That's really good. So John, thanks again for sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
The point of these shows is to really just go inside the district, the best district in all of air transport, and show everybody what's going on. Make sure that everybody really has a better understanding, because there's a lot of questions out there, and it all starts at the top with you. So thanks again for sitting down with me. One thing that has always been on my mind is how does one become the President Directing General Chair of the second largest district in all of air transport? Tell us how you got to where you are.
So most of the membership is probably aware that District 142 went into trusteeship. And during that process, I was a general chair off the American Airlines property. And we have quite an array of GCs in the mix. And they brought us all into Kansas City. Ironically, they terminated all of us. Then we had to make a decision of whether we wanted to.
Everybody lost their job.
Everybody. Oh. It was a little unnerving. But there's a reason for it, right? The leadership, the Grand Lodge, the district had to be sure that the people that were involved in the process moving forward were people that wanted to see it succeed. It couldn't just be half a team. A team is a team, and if you're not all together, you're not doing the right things. So during that process, we all agreed to come back to work, and then GVP Rich Johnson and Deputy Tony Blevins asked the group who would be interested in taking the lead position, the PDGC. There was 4 or 5 of us that decided that we wanted to do it, and honestly, at first I didn't want to do it because I live by the philosophy that I don't like anyone telling me what to do, so I sure as heck don't want to tell anyone else.
I didn't know that about you.
So, it was a struggle. It was a struggle within my head. So we went through an interview process, and, I'm just me. I don't know how to be anything different. So I went into the interview process, and Rich Johnson, GVP, and Tony Blevins, the deputy of the trusteeship, interviewed me. They asked me several questions. They wanted to be sure of my commitment. And, one thing that I can say, I've always been committed to the IM. It's to me, the best organization out there. And I think we see that. I know we see it. I know we see it in the contracts that we negotiate. So they told us that they would notify us in 5 to 10 days of who got the position. And the first week went by, and I thought, well, I guess it wasn't me, but I didn't hear anything else either. So wasn't quite sure what the length or the reason for the length of time, without notifying anybody was. But then I finally got a call, and I happened to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Hey, shout out Oklahoma! Hey,
we were doing a station visit, myself and GC Ken Coley on the American Airlines property, because, as I said, I was an American Airlines general chair. And brother Tony Blevins congratulated me, told me I had the job, and needed me to be in Kansas City that afternoon.
About a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, so unlikely I was going to make it that afternoon, but I did head home, told my wife, packed my stuff, and headed to Kansas City, and here we are today. So It was that simple.
So going back to, everybody was fired, and was that your first time ever being fired?
No.
Excellent. So that kind of leads me into my next question. Before you were general chair for American Airlines, just tell us about your history with the IAM. What were you doing before? Where were you doing it before?
So I'm an aircraft mechanic. I started out in Buffalo, New York. After being in Buffalo for 4 years, they took the balance check out of Buffalo and moved it to Boston, and they shut down Buffalo, and I had an option to exercise my seniority And I was working midnights with Tuesday, Wednesday off, and I could go to daylight in Pittsburgh with Saturday, Sunday off. So it was a no-brainer. That's where I went. Now, when I left, originally I was going there for a year. Well, here it is 34 years later, and I'm still there, although we're in Phoenix today. Once I got to Pittsburgh, it took me a little while to figure out where I belonged and what I wanted to do. But this is 1992, about a month before, we're in negotiations, and about a month before the negotiations came to a close by us going on strike, I was elected as a shop steward. I was one of the first ones to walk out the door in 1992, which was a thrill beyond belief. When you're 22 years old, it's easy to be tough. When you're older and you're responsible for over 24,000 members, that's a big decision to make, to take people out on strike. After a little while of working daylight in Hangar 2, I moved up to Hangar 5, became a shop steward up there. Spent a long time there, became the VP of the local in 2007. I held every position that you could have. I was the grievance committee man. I was a grievance committee chair, and local lodge president. I was a VP for quite a while. Was on a negotiating committee in 2005. Got into negotiations again in 2014, 15, and became a general chair in 2016, and then became the PDGC of the district in 2021.
One of the first things you did as PDGC was
Right.
move the district from Kansas City out here to Phoenix. What kind of went into choosing Phoenix as the location for the district?
So we took office in February, and we moved out in August. And if anyone had been to the district office in Kansas City, they would understand why. It was old. In its time, it was probably a fantastic place, but it still had the original.
Its time was a long time ago.
Long time ago. It still had the red shag carpet. It had wood paneling walls. I mean, it was just, and it was a mess. And there was so much stuff. File cabinets, probably 100 of them. Boxes and boxes of paper. Just, I can't operate that way.
Yeah.
If anyone's seen the district today, it's night and day.
So I definitely understand all the problems that were in Kansas City, but what led you here to Phoenix?
So I sat with Joe Schultz, the ST, and Tony Blevins, and I told them we have to move. And Tony said, let me call the IP and see if it's something we could do. He called them that morning. It would have been right around the last 2 days of July, the last week of July. And he said, yep, the IP said we can move. So I got online and I started looking for buildings. First place I looked was Dallas, because it would make sense, right? American Airlines headquarters there, Southwest headquarters there, two of our biggest clients. And it seemed to make sense. So I flew into Dallas and I looked around the DFW side, and it was just outrageously expensive. It didn't make economic sense for us to move to that part of town. Then I went to Las Vegas, and Las Vegas made a ton of sense. Very inexpensive, nice buildings, nice locations.
Yep.
And I called my wife and I said, hey, I'm thinking about moving the office to Las Vegas. And she said, I don't think you should. I think everyone's going to think you're going there to drink and
going there to party.
I said, no, Vegas doesn't have that.
This is a union. This is a union.
We don't do that kind of stuff. So then I called brother Tony Blevins and I said, Tony, I'm thinking about moving the office to Las Vegas. And he says, my best imitation of Tony Blevins, brother, everyone's going to think you're going there to drink and gamble.
Shout out, Tony.
I said, Tony, have you been talking to my wife? And I knew that Vegas wasn't the answer, even though it seemed economically sound. So then I came to Phoenix, and we had a realtor set up all these different offices that we had to look at, and we looked at a bunch, probably 11 to 12 different buildings. 2 would have been really nice, but we couldn't get in them. There was just something that didn't allow us to get to where we had to be in the office. So the realtor says, we got 1 left, but you can't get in there till January. And I said, well, that's not going to work. I said, so just take me back to the airport. He said, well, it's on the way to the airport. I said, okay, we'll stop and look. Yep. And we walked into this building, and it was an old not an old, it was a TV studio, and there were TVs everywhere. I mean, it was pretty chaotic. But I walked through, went one way, Joe Schultz went the other way, and when we came back out in the hallway, I said, just follow me. Charlotte was with us, my secretary, and I said, just take notes as we walk through. And I laid it out to exactly what you see today. Now, Joe's responsible for the deck, the core, the furniture, the carpets, everything. He did all that, but together we put that vision together, and that's how we ended up in Phoenix. Now, the key is we saved money by moving. Now, we don't own this building. But we still saved a lot of money because the upkeep in Kansas City was big.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't efficient. This building does it all, right? We've had negotiations here. We've had companies come in and do stuff. We've had education classes here. We've had the young machinist group here. We had the women's committee here. So it's been a very useful and productive building, and I only see better things in the future.
I can, certainly attest to that. We've done things here that we never would have even thought about doing in Kansas City just because of the facility itself. All right, so we've talked about all the different changes that you've made at the district. We're communicating more than we ever have. I talk to our communicator, Todd Day, all the time, and we're on pace to more than double our communications from last year, which was already probably triple what we did the year before. We're doing more education classes. It's just now March, and we've already done 2 huge summits, and we got a convention coming up. We're negotiating industry leading contracts, mergers, everything. 24,000 members within our district. I guess the one question that I have is, what do you do all day?
Great question. So typically in the morning, I meet with the staff here, and we kind of go through what we have to do throughout the day to see what they have planned. They check my schedule to make sure if they need to get hold of me, they know when they can get in touch with me. And then the day starts, right? I usually have a conversation with the airline coordinators through the Grand Lodge. I reach out to my different committees, whether it's you through organizing, Todd Day through communications, Al Melendez through education, just the array. Sean Howland for legislative, because there's always something brewing out there in the industry. Oh, yeah. Then I have one of the GCs I work with all the time, Ken Coley. We have our morning chat every day to talk about where we're at with the American property, British Airways, Aer Lingus, Allied, just the gamut, to make sure we're on top of all the things that we have to do. Then I address my email. If you could imagine how many emails come through in a day, it's just incredible.
And then
hundreds.
I put my socks on. All this, and then I eat breakfast.
Right. So then I address obviously the important things that come across in an email. The phone never stops.
I can attest to that. In the few hours I've been here today, that phone, it's sitting back here. I had to finally make him silence it. Has been going nonstop. He's got this little headset he wears, and it's like, I think it's going to be attached to him one day. But
you might be right there.
It's pretty impressive.
So I make sure that the district's moving forward. I work with membership records to make sure things are happening there. There's always bills to pay. There's always expensify that has to be done. There's just a litany of things that take place, and that's only before lunch. Always looking at contracts. Like currently we're in Air Wisconsin negotiations, we're in Qantas negotiations, we're in Allied negotiations. So I'm always helping the GCs get through those parts. We're looking at the financial end. Tom Regan for the airline coordinators, a big asset for me when we start working on the finances of the different contracts. And then just the day-to-day things that take place in any president that's president of a local understands what happens in the local. The same stuff happens in the district, just on a much bigger level. Just today alone, I had a conversation with the labor leader for Southwest Airlines, the labor leader for American Airlines, and two of my negotiators, one from Southwest for the NCP group and one from Allied for the Allied Newark group. So
you still had time to sit down and chat with me for a second.
Yeah, exactly. So typically if I take lunch, if Zach's in town or somebody else is in town, we run out and we grab some food. I'll get right back to it. Now, remember, we're in Phoenix, and the East Coast runs a 2 hour difference this time of year, 3 hours later. So everyone on the East Coast is trying to wrap everything up before the end of their day. So my 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock is usually jam packed with folks on the East Coast trying to close out whatever the calls, whether it be for a grievance, a termination, contract clarification, whatever the case may be. I get bombarded from that 1 to 3 o'clock hour is usually chaotic. Then I go get myself a nice cup of tea and my Buffalo Bills mug, go Bills. And then I'll come back and start winding down and getting through my emails. I try to hit my email typically between 3 and 4 o'clock because that gives me enough time to grab somebody on the East Coast if necessary, plenty of time to hit people on the West Coast or out in Hawaii. For those of you that don't know, we represent 20 different companies. We have 44 local lodges. We have 122 locations that we travel to. So you can imagine that each and every one of those places contacts this district office one time or another throughout a month, a week, a day, an hour. It's just crazy the amount of traffic that comes through here. So typically when I finish winding up my emails, I'll start doing my responses from 4 to 5 o'clock. That's when things tend to slow down. The people on the East Coast are kind of tucked away for the night, so I can go and get some stuff done uninterrupted. Helps me keep that train of thought moving. Then I start to lay out my plan for the next day, and usually somewhere around 6:30, I pack up and head out.
So going back to something you said, obviously District 142, we're not even the largest district, but we are the second largest. So as you mentioned, 24,000 members, 20 different companies, right? And then you have several work groups within each of those companies. And here at the district, as far as field reps, I mean, there's Joe over there, ST, and Tanai, his assistant. But field reps, we have 16
general chairs
to represent 24,000 members. So,
That's
I mean,
right.
you do the math. You're a mathematician. You're in finance.
I was never in finance.
But, I mean, you're talking easily over 1,000 people per field rep.
It's almost 1,700 people per rep.
So yeah, and 122 locations. So I know for me, I'm always like, where's my GC? Where's my rep? Where's my rep? Where's my rep? But I mean, they could be any number of places, working any number of contract, working any number of carrier. So it's
So something that you should know, or the membership should know, is we have 16 general chairs. We have 20 different companies. We primarily assign the GC to the company that they've come from because they know that contract the best. So even though all the GCs are at large, they're still typically assigned to the property that they're from. And that's important because, as everyone knows, we have an election coming up right now. And two of the people that are up for election come off the Alaska property, and that's where they're assigned. The other comes off the American Airlines property, and that's where he's assigned, along with Qantas, aircraft mechanics, British Airways. It's important that we put the right people in the right place. So there's a lot of thought that goes into selecting a GC, who moves into the spot. It's not a friends and family situation. It's a pick the most qualified person for that spot. Now, when we have the general election, the membership truly decides, but it's important to me as a leader of the group and the team itself to make sure we have the right players in place to get the best bang for our dollar, for your dollar. It's dues dollars that pays for all this stuff, and we want to make sure that we're putting the right people in the right place to get you the best contract in the industry.
So this year, 2025, is going to be one of the biggest years for our district, in my opinion. Obviously, we have the merger. You've got the negotiations post-merger. We've also got our first convention in 6 years. 2019, Pittsburgh was the last convention that we've had. So it's going to be the first convention under our new leadership in our new building and just all this new stuff going on. What are you most looking forward to see in convention this year?
Oh, well, 2019 was in Pittsburgh. That's my hometown where I'm from now. And it was a great convention. Everything went off without a hitch for the membership, right? Behind the scenes, the chaos was going, and that's still happening today, right? For this planning for this new convention.
Right.
But what I saw in 2019 was participation. The membership was engaged. The conversation was intense. There were good moments, there were bad moments, there were exciting moments, there were boring moments, but it was enjoyed by everybody. And I really feel that that was the start of District 142. And with what we put together through the district over the last 2 years, I'm looking forward to seeing what the membership feels today. 5 years later, there seems to be more engagement now than I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I know the communication is higher now than it's ever been in the history of District 142, let alone just since 2019. So I'm really looking forward to just hearing from the membership in a forum like the convention that allows them to set the direction of the district, where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and what's going to happen. So that's really what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, 2019, it was a excellent convention. Pittsburgh, where you live today, right? I mean, just an awesome town. But I'm really looking forward to this upcoming convention because, yeah, we are 100% a totally different district today than we were back then. One last thing before we move on from the convention, anything you want them to know, any secrets you can tell us, any special guests that are going to be speaking, anything at all?
First, I want everyone to come and be as safe as they can possibly be. I want you to have the best time of your life, but I want you to be careful. And remember, when you're out there, you still represent the IAM. So just be smart about what you do. As far as the convention itself, I think you're gonna learn a lot. We have a lot of work to do. Um, Overall, I think it's just going to be a good time. It's going to be a wait and see thing.
Oh man, tight lips. This guy never lets anything by. Okay, well then we'll just wait and see, as you say.
Okay.
I can't wait. One of the biggest things going on right now is the Hawaiian Alaska merger. A lot to do with that. A lot going on. We're getting ready to go into negotiations. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, coming off of the U.S. Airways American Airlines property, I've had a lot of experience with mergers. Been through multiple. Been through a couple bankruptcies as well. So I kind of got an understanding of the stress and anxiety that the members face at this point in time. The key thing that they have to remember is that we're in their corner. We're going to negotiate them one of the best contracts in the industry. We're going to protect them. We're not going to go backwards on anything. So when you take the two companies, Hawaiian as a whole and Alaska as a whole, we'll sit down as a group and we will pick the best of the best out of the contract. Then we'll sit at the table with the company, and obviously they're going to have a say in what they want to see, and we'll negotiate a contract from that point moving forward. Especially for the mechanic group who is very concerned about the wages. We've done multiple JCBAs so far, and I'll point to the American contract as the biggest. We didn't go backwards on anything. It was the most forward-thinking contract in the industry, the highest paid in the industry, and still today the best contract in the industry. We took the best of both. So for the folks at Hawaiian who have a fear that they won't reach the wages of the mechanics at Alaska, that's going to be the starting point. We're going to start at that point and negotiate forward. So as we get into this process with the ramp and the CSAs and the rest of the Hawaiian folks, they can look forward to reaping the benefits of the Alaska contract, and the Alaska folks can look forward to reaping the benefits of the Hawaiian contract. We're going to do the best we can to get you the best contract we can.
And I know that's what's always the goal of IAM. And going back to that American Airlines U.S. Air contract, I also understand that nobody lost their job through that process. Is that correct?
Absolutely. No union member lost their job through that entire process, and everybody profited. There were a few management people that were displaced, obviously, because they have both companies had the same tier system going up through the process. So if they had two labor reps, they had to go down to one. So, and you'll see the same thing happen at Alaska Hawaiian. In fact, they've already furloughed several people off that property. All management personnel, no union represented people lost their job or will lose their job, and we'll continue to negotiate to make that language even stronger.
Excellent. So yeah, obviously a lot of members that we represent, 20 companies. One of our newest companies that we just acquired through an organizing drive was Qantas. Qantas Aircraft Mechanics in LA joined the IAM last year, voted to join the IAM overwhelmingly. and right now they're going into contract negotiations. Another company that we organized, PSA Stores, which also overwhelmingly voted to join the IAM last year, they're getting ready to start theirs. Contract negotiations are such a huge part of what we do here in the IAM. You especially are super involved in contract negotiations, and it's worked out very well for our members. I mean, we have some of the highest paid members in the airline industry. So, I mean, just take us through like how a contract is negotiated. I'm a PSA stores agent, let's say, and things are coming out. I just saw my call for contract proposals, and I submitted something that says I want to make $50 million an hour. So take it from there, and where does that go?
Okay, so I'd like to start out because it is it could be a very in-depth topic, but I'll kind of glaze over the top and just bring a closure to it in the end. But the most important thing is our members should read their contract. They should understand their contract so that they know when we bring them something back that what the improvements are. You know, we put a highlight sheet out, we do all that kind of stuff, but if you don't read it and understand it, you really still don't understand, even though we give you the highlights. But the most important thing is you just mentioned call for contract proposals. If you don't understand your contract, you don't understand the proposals that you're putting out, or you don't even take the time to put one out because you're not sure what you should say or why you should say it. I want to encourage everybody to write down what you want to see and what you believe should be there. Don't worry about the mumbo jumbo legal context of it. Write it down. We'll have a proposal committee. We'll have the negotiating committee. We'll be able to figure it out. And if it's really something that's intriguing and we want to know more, we'll reach out to that individual and get that information. But take the time to write down what you want to see, because we only negotiate what the membership wants to see. If we receive, 1,000 proposals to say we want whatever the number you use, $25 million in a contract, that would be the most important thing we go after. If we receive one proposal that says we want donuts on our desk every morning or something, we would prioritize those things. And what we do after the proposals come in, and you're going to see this both on PSA and I think it was definitely done on Qantas already. But all the proposals that come in will get ranked, or they'll get put in categories. They'll be on the webpage. You'll be able to go on and click the ones that you think are most important. There'll probably be 20 different items. As a negotiator and as a negotiating committee, we pick the top 10. And then we go after them. The top 1 through 3 we go after with all our heart and soul. The last 17, 18, 19, 20, those are kind of used for negotiating. We trade them away. If we get lucky and we can peg some of them, that's great. If we can't, we put it on the table and then we withdraw it as we move through the process. And don't be fooled. The company does the exact same thing. They know what they want. They have their wish list too. Their negotiating committee is given the authority to give X, and our job is to make sure we can get X out of them.
And so that brings up a good point that I think always members always want to know is a negotiating committee. Both ours and the company's negotiating committee. What does that consist of? How do you choose on a negotiating committee?
Great question.
All IAM? Is it all people from the floor? What's that look like?
So in the past, it was always just GCs that went into negotiations, which is good for the negotiation part, but it's not so good for the membership part, because then there's nobody out servicing the membership, and we don't get the membership aspect, what the folks on the floor that are actually out doing a job feel and want to say. So what we have today is we have one general chair, we have a couple members from the floor, we usually have the assistance of someone from the Grand Lodge, so we get an overall mix. And how we go about selecting that person is I bring the GCs in, they bring me the list of people that they think would be best suited for the job. I vet that list. I go through it with conversation with them, and as a team, we pick who we believe would be best to sit at the table to represent the membership, which is important because we need someone that can understand the contract, someone that can communicate with the company, and someone that can take the information back to the membership and explain to their members why they push for and why we push for the things that we did. So that's a big part of the process, to make sure that we have a well-rounded idea of what the membership truly wants and truly needs, and that's why we bring members off the floor these days.
One thing that I've always liked, a saying I've always loved in union, behind the scenes union work in general, is it's not a science, it's an art, right? There's no one way to do things, man. There's a million different answers for a million different questions, and
Right.
You got to just find your way around. So we've covered the negotiating committee. We talked about the proposals part and ranking the proposals. So let's jump back into the process a little bit.
So after the proposals come in and we rank them and we know exactly what we're going to negotiate, we sit down as a committee and we devise our plan, right? How we're going to get to what the membership is looking for. What's the best path? Because, you know, the saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's different ways to get to different things. And that's where the negotiating skill comes in. You know, we could be talking about a vacation article, right? And today I got you 12 weeks of vacation. And then the company comes in tomorrow and says, we want to give you unfettered medical and an incredible amount of money. But we're only going to give you 5 weeks of vacation. And that's where the skill as a negotiator comes in, right? What's most important to the membership? Where does it all break down? Where do you get it so that it's on paper and it makes sense to the membership and it gives them the most that they can get? And that's a big reason why negotiations aren't an open book for people to see what goes on every minute of every day. Because at one point we could have 12 weeks of vacation on the table and $20 an hour, and then the next day we got $200 an hour and only 5 weeks of vacation on the table. And if I bring you the better of the two, you're going to say, well, you told me we had 12 weeks of vacation this day. Why? I wanted the 12 weeks. And meanwhile, this guy wants the $200 and this lady wants the, the unfettered medical. So it's a big balancing act, and it's an art. We're sculpting a contract book.
It's an art, not a science.
And when it's all done, we bring it back to you, and ultimately the membership is the deciding factor. You look at everything that we put together in that book, and we give you the highlight sheet, we give you the red line version. We have in-person meetings, we have Zoom meetings, we have Teams meetings. We give you every piece that you could ever want to have to make a decision on a contract. And I would only ask that there might be one thing you don't like, but it's not about the one thing, it's about the overall picture, right? The bottom line is the entire package. And I would ask the membership, when we bring these contracts out, take the time to read it, take the time to learn it. If you don't understand your contract and you don't read your contract and you're only focused on that one little item, you're really missing out on what the whole process is all about. And you have to make the decision that impacts everybody. It's about the collective. So a lot to it. We can go in a lot more depth, and maybe we'll make that a podcast
we should probably do that on its own. Negotiations on its own, man.
Absolutely. And you know, we can even bring in some of the experts.
So yeah, one important point that I think comes up anytime we have an engagement, we do your monthly engagements, which have just been incredible. But one thing that always comes up that is a pain point for our members, is a point of confusion for a lot of the new guys, even the old guys. Is the structure of the IAM. What is a local? What is a district? What's the international? Is it Grand Lodge? What's going on? So you are the president and directing general chair of District 142. But if you could just go over the structure of the IAM a little bit, just to help kind of make it make sense for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the international. The international is the overseer of all the folks in the IAM. There's over 350,000 active members in the IAM right now, and all the locals, the districts, all go through the international. And at the international is the international president, Brian Bryant, newly elected the beginning of this year.
Shout out, Brian.
We all come from transportation. There's several territories. You can get on the webpage and see the different territories. But everyone in District 142, District 141 come through transportation. Rich Johnson is the GVP, General Vice President of Transportation. He oversees District 141, 142, District 19. He's responsible for everything that has to do with planes, trains, or automobiles. Maybe not so much automobiles, but planes and trains. So a lot of what we do here at the district and our sister district 141 Words of Zach Hooker. Shout out to 141.
Shout out.
We work hand in hand with 141 on a lot of issues because we represent a lot of the same companies, right? We both have American. We both have airlines in itself. 141 is United. We have Southwest. A lot of intertwining, and a lot of our locals have both groups. So it makes it interesting. So the international is run by Brian Bryant. Our leader through transportation is Richie Johnson. Then it comes down to the districts. Brother Mike Clem is the president and directing general chair of District 141. He has the same job I do. So him and I communicate a lot to make sure that we're doing things in step and we're working together and really trying to help each other do the right things for the membership. Within the district, as I said, we have 44 local lodges, and each one of those local lodges has a structure within itself. But the district is the overseer of all the local lodges. We collect all the dues, we maintain the membership, we distribute the money back to the local lodges. We have the convention that brings all the local lodges in to decide what direction we head as a district, as I mentioned in another part of this, another segment in our conversation. But we oversee all the local lodges. We help make decisions on elections and processes and who attends certain things, and we oversee all the membership data to make sure that people are qualified to attend conventions and conferences, and who's eligible to vote in local lodge elections, district elections, grand lodge elections. So that's the job of the district. Then we have the local lodges, right? As I said, we have 44 of them. They go from New Jersey to Hawaii, from New York City down to Florida, all the way over to San Diego and up to Seattle. So we cover the entire United States with local lodges. The locals take care of the membership on the local level. You'll have a complete e-board within the local that you take care of things that you do on your property. I'll use Pittsburgh, for example, because that's where I'm from. Local Lodge 1976. I used to be president and grievance committee chair in Pittsburgh. Currently, it's Howard Ferguson, who's doing a great job. He is the president. They have their own internal structure that takes care of the local lodge. They have Christmas parties. They take care of grievances locally. They take care of anything that has to be done within the local level, and it's all handled by the folks at the local level. So it's kind of like the government, right? The international is like the president's office. The districts are kind of like Congress, and the locals are like the governors of the states. So that oversimplifies it, but that's kind of how it works.
Well, I think oversimplification it can be good in some places and bad in other places. But when it comes to just the structure, I think it can be simplified a lot, and that helps. That helps a lot. So in short, like you said, it's almost like a 4-tier system. I would say you have the IP's office, the territories,
right,
the districts, and then the locals, and each of those 4 tiers has its own leadership, right?
That's very true, yes.
So thank you again for simplifying that and helping us kind of understand. That's going to go far. Incredible sitting down with you. I know you're super busy. One thing that I think is important is that we keep doing these videos, keep doing anything we can to educate our membership. This was a huge deal to be able to sit down with you and secure your time for whatever the 50 minutes that this video is. So I really appreciate it. If you could just give like one final thing, a farewell address from the President, Directing General Chair, if you want to go ahead and just deliver that. State of the Union.
So we've accomplished a lot in a 2-year period, right? And we have 2 more years before the next election, general election for everybody. What we do here is we do it for the membership. If the membership is unhappy with what they see, what they hear, what they think, they need to reach out. They need to reach out through their stewards. They need to reach out through their general chair. And they need to reach out through conventions and conferences and on the webpage, on X, on whatever medium we have, because we're here to do this for the membership. And I'm filled with a lot of great ideas, but the majority of my ideas come from the membership. I'm just the guy that drives them to wherever it is they want to end up. I need to hear from the membership. We do a monthly call every month to 6 weeks. It's open to everybody in the district. It's open to folks at 141 too if they want to join. I'll talk to anyone. I I need to hear from the membership. I need to hear what they're thinking. I need to know that they're happy. I need to know if they're upset. I need to know what they want to see. I need to know where they want to take this district. You know, the convention's coming up. We're going to get a lot of direction from the convention. But we have the day-to-day. We have the education committee. We have the legislative committee. We have the organizing committee. We have the women's committee. There's just so much that goes on every single day, but we need help. We need input, and we need the members. We need the membership to be involved. With that, we'll talk about something great next time.
Yeah, and there's so much more that we could continue talking about. Arbitrations. We're gonna have a whole profile.
We could do something just on arbitrations, on the Railway Labor Act.
God,
it's limitless.
Yeah,
so.
there's a lot, and we plan to go over all of that with the members. Thank you again for sitting down with me. I know you got a lot to get to.
Thanks for inviting me. This was a blast.
Excellent. We're gonna keep doing these, so don't think you're off the hook just because you sat down with me.
I certainly don't.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me today. District 142. We'll be keeping up with you so long as you keep up with us. See ya.